The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion has no shortage of mature themes. The game is based off of a violent world where fighting reigns supreme. You can't leave a city without encountering some sort of threat, and a lot of times too, those same threats can be found inside those safe havens. What's more, the player has the option of choosing which side of the law they want to be on. Nothing stopping you from slaying an entire town or stealing a lower class family's life savings. Don't even get me started on Mehrunes Dagon's Deadlands and its depictions of death, torture, and suffering. Needless to say that, while yes, it is a video game, it still has that shock factor to it, or at least it did when it first released. One category of mature themes that we don't see very much of is intimacy. Obviously, there are couples in the game, NPCs who are in relationships with one another, but we don't hear too much of the finer details. What goes on behind closed doors and the extent of their relations. At the risk of continuing to sound like someone's search history, the reason I bring this all up is because there's really only one quest in the game that deals with this type of subject matter. Today, I wanted to go through and talk about the quest, The Siren's Deception. I'm going to play through it, listen to the dialogue, and discuss some themes, theories, and lore at the end. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back, relax, and let's enjoy a tale from Oblivion Remastered. This quest can be started as early as level 1. All the player needs to do is travel to the city of Anvil and ask around for rumors. In my case, I actually got the desired dialogue on my second NPC, which for me is unheard of.
You hear about Gueden? A gang of thieves is running a scam in town, and he fell for it. What an idiot! An all-female gang of thieves has been recently plaguing Anvil with a very unique method of robbing. They pick on only the men. If you want to help us do something about it, go talk to Gueden and Melona. Let's just say Gueden is intimately involved and leave it at that.
Worth noting is that you don't even need to hear the rumor to begin the quest. You can always go and speak with the man himself, Gueden, or his wife, Melona. The Redguard couple live at the end of the street on the western side of town. Speaking with the missus, she sounds less than pleased with her husband's antics.
How would you like to get my husband Gueden out of hot water? Believe me, he'll need all the help he can get to worm his way out of this one. To think he'd fall for the gang's scheme, ugh, I could kill him. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, and you look confused. Let me explain. The women in the gang use their wiles to lure men out to some remote location and rob them blind. It's been going on for some time now. The city guard hasn't done very much about it, because frankly, the men who are robbed are so embarrassed they don't want to report it. Take, for example, that good-for-nothing husband of mine, Gueden. He cared more about their charms than my own. When Gueden was, with the women, they took something quite valuable from him. No, it's not what you're thinking. He was carrying a precious family heirloom with him when he was lured out to their lair. It was a small ring given to him on our wedding day. The ring belonged to my mother and has been in the family for generations. I'm willing to give you all the money I have to get it back, 100 gold. Can you help us? Thank you. I'm afraid I can't offer you much help, but I'll do what I can. All I can tell you is that the best place to start is at the Flowing Bowl. It's a tavern located outside the city walls near the waterfront. Gueden may be able to give you more information beyond that.
With the full story out there, Gueden is definitely in some deep trouble. Leaving the home, him and Morvain were lined up in the street, staring off into the distance. In my head, I couldn't help but laugh and think that they're waiting for yet another shot at love with the gang, desperately wishing they'd turn the corner for another night of robbery.
What do you want? I see my wife couldn't keep a big mouth shut. Yes, it's true. I lost the family ring to those sirens. I'm ashamed about the whole incident, but not ashamed enough to ask for your help. I was sitting in the Flowing Bowl when the most fetching Nord woman you've ever seen walked in with an equally attractive Imperial woman following. After we exchanged words, I followed them out to a farmhouse. Inside, they asked me to remove my clothes and items. Well, I did. And then suddenly they brandished weapons and robbed me. They sent me away with barely a stitch of clothing, harlots. Just please, help me get that ring back. I want to save what's left of my marriage.
At this point, there's nothing more to hear. Unless we want to get into the nitty-gritty of how down bad Gueden was, it's time to go to the Flowing Bowl and stake out the place. Strolling across the Anvil docks and entering the shabby joint, the only person I could see at this point was Norbert Lels. He's a somewhat successful man, but I don't think he's capable of pulling people out to a secluded farm. However, upon sitting down, two women strolled on in and approached my character.
You go ahead. What
Somebody
going on with
wants to
goblins
talk
in
to
the
you.
woods not long ago?
I
Nasty
think
little
you'll
beasts.
like what she has to say.
I haven't seen you here before. Ah, and you're all alone too. How sad. Well, if you're up to it, I think we can solve that little problem. You see, me and Faustina here are lonely too, and we've been looking for someone. You look like just what we need. I'll tell you what, we have a cozy farmhouse not far from here where we could, well, get to know each other much, much better. I'll mark it down on your map just so you won't forget where to find us. Meet us there around 11 o'clock. I can promise you a night of fun you won't soon forget. Do I really have to spell it out for you? You're a man, and I'm a woman with a certain desire. You figure out the rest.
Can't wait to see you later. Don't keep us waiting. Hope you're not planning to get much sleep.
That was definitely an easy in. That must mean they truly care about my character, right? Right? I just have to give a quick spotlight to Signy's nickname, or surname, Homewrecker. Definitely on the nose with that one. I doubt she introduces herself to her victims with it, but if she did, you'd think the red flag would be in the air. If you want, you can go ahead and reveal the gang's hideout to Malona, but nothing really comes of it. Their base of operations is at Gueden Farm. From the northern gate, it's not much more than 400 some odd steps away. Something that Malona would have said though, and is absolutely true, the farm is really close to Anvil. It's far enough away where travelers and guards won't come knocking, but it's also within eyeshot from the city. It's definitely risky business for the gang, as we're about to see for ourselves. Also, I'm assuming that the other men were brought out to Gueden Farm as well. After all, Gueden literally says that he walked over to a farmhouse, and I don't see any others nearby. Even with a couple of drinks in you, it's probably still easy to remember that you walked a brief distance southeast. In any case, arriving at the farm, you'll receive a journal update, and when 11 PM strikes, it's showtime.
I see you took us up on our offer. Good. I'm glad to see you. Signy will be along shortly. I'm sure we can find something to do while we wait. Now, we can't have you standing there all uncomfortable in all those clothes. Why don't you take everything off and place it there on the table? What? What are you talking about? Don't you want to have fun? Come on, don't be shy. Or are you here for something else? Damn, I knew it. You're working for the city guard, aren't you? I didn't think they would be stupid enough to send someone alone. But so be it. I should have known after I fenced that stupid ring and discovered it was a fake. Worthless. All part of the guard's plan, I suppose. Okay, girls. We got someone who doesn't want to cooperate.
Turning around, Signy, Homewrecker, and a third gang member rushed into the room. Their weapons are drawn, and it's officially go time. The first time I battled the gang, I encountered a common bug. Signy and Serena come in for the attack, but Faustina Cardia stood in the corner and watched us go at it. In order for the quest to progress, Cardia also needs to die. However, since she's not hostile, hitting her is like attacking an innocent civilian. She cries out assault, and when she dies, it registers as murder for the Dark Brotherhood initiation. Although, no fines are accumulated or handed out, so if anything, it's the best of all worlds. I will say though, I'm personally not ready to start my Dark Brotherhood journey, so I reverted back, went through the motions, and this time, Faustina was hostile with the rest of the gang. Signy and Serena were pretty easy for my character to defeat. They're respectively placed 2 and 3 levels lower than the player. A couple of blasts with Flashbolt and they were down for the count. Cardia, on the other hand, was a little bit trickier. She'll always match your level, in my case level 5, and what's more, for my fellow mages out there, she fights using the unique and enchanted dagger, Wit Splinter. At its best, it damages magicka for 35 points and drains intelligence for 10 points for 30 seconds. This greatly affected my ability to cast spells, and I found myself having to rely on old Sonic and Tails to finish the job. Once the gang was defeated, Melona and Gueden strolled on in to Gueden and revealed their true identities.
We had a feeling you'd be surprised when you saw us in our real uniforms. I see you have a puzzled look on your face. Ask away. Gueden and I are really members of the Anvil City Watch. I suppose you could say we work undercover. We've been trying to foil Faustina's gang for months now. Every time we tried to interview a man who was Lord Theyre, they refused to talk. The women in the gang picked married men to seduce for just that reason. It was decided the only way to stop this gang was to send in a stranger. You fit the bill perfectly. It's a shame it had to end in so much violence, but someone was bound to get hurt sooner or later. We'll clean up the mess. Don't concern yourself about it. I'm sure you had no choice. If you ever find yourself back in Anvil, stop by any time and say hello. Oh, and please say nothing to anyone about our true identities. You've done well, and here's the reward that I promised.
After that little chat with Melona, the quest officially concludes, and you get paid out a leveled amount of gold. Despite Melona saying that the reward was only 100 septims, I received 200 due to my level range. At the immediate moment, the pair doesn't have much more to say on the matter. Before heading on out, I highly advise that you loot the gang. In particular, Faustina has Wit Splinter, which is perfect for assassin and stealth builds. With what I'm trying to do with my class, it fits perfectly into my weapon arsenal. For my level as well, the blade only deals 15 points of damage to magicka, and the intelligence drain only lasts for 20 seconds. Next, perhaps equally as interesting as the dagger, is the key to the basement that you can find on Cardia and Serena's bodies. Heading on down, you can see exactly how the gang operated. The room and bed upstairs were just for show, as the 3 women were actually set up down here. Attached to the main area is a small side room, which holds arguably the most interesting part in all of this, the trophies. The little nook contains a variety of items that once belonged to their victims. You'll find clothing, jewelry, gemstones, armor, heirlooms, gold, ingredients, etc. Even better, each object has its owner's name attached to it, and you'll probably recognize all of the men involved. Ernest the commoner who works over at Anvil's stables. Heinrich Oakenhall, the pirate shipmaster who wanders Anvil's docks. And lastly, Pinurus Inventius, the friendly hunter who helps the player during the Fighters Guild's a rat problem. I've even had the pleasure of meeting his wife before, and it just makes the situation so much worse. There's even a little love letter on the floor of the trophy room. It's not obvious if one of the men wrote it to a member of the gang or vice versa, but either way, its presence is pretty comical. After going through the second-hand walk of shame, make sure you loot everything your heart desires. Once you leave the farm and the case is closed, there's no going back in. From there, that pretty much puts a wrap on the Siren's deception. If you find Melona out in Anvil, she really only affirms your efforts.
I'm afraid I have very little information to add to our follow-up investigation. It appears that you got all of them. We never found evidence of any other members. Nice work.
As for Gueden, he says some stuff that really only left me confused.
They still aren't letting me live this down. Everyone's making fun of me because I fell for the Siren's charms. Well, now I have the last laugh. Do me a favor. Don't say anything to the other guards that I fell for it, okay? Thanks.
I've always assumed that Gugen's story was made up and he never actually met with the gang. I just assumed that his tale was an attempt to find an adventurer who could lead the way for the gang's arrest. However, after hearing that dialogue, I think he actually fell for the woman's scheme and went on out to Gueden Farm. It's after the fact, the jig's up, we're alone, and he's still trying to hide his moment of weakness from the other guards. Plus, Cardia mentioned that the ring was a fake, meaning that it was actually stolen off of him. So I'm now assuming that my man really did fall for the bait. Unless he's trying to keep up the facade, or he went there as part of a recon mission or something, I think Gugen's thirst got the better of him. Now, let's talk a little bit about this quest. Admittedly, there isn't a whole lot in the way of interesting lore and theories. However, this quest does offer something else entirely. There's a lot of complexity to it and multiple points of discussion. For starters, this is one of the few side quests that has a Blackhorse Courier article written about it. After some time, the newspaper will get handed out and it reads as follows. Special edition, Gang of Tarts Thwarted. Temptresses terrorize Anvil no more. A ruthless crime ring of female thieves plaguing Anvil's menfolk has finally been broken. These shameless women employed feminine wiles to seduce the men, lured them to remote locations, then robbed them, leaving them without a stitch of clothing. The gang's ringleader, Faustina Cardia, had preyed upon Anvil's male population for some time, but the shamefaced victims had been reluctant to admit what was happening. Now, thanks to an extensive undercover operation by two unnamed Anvil Guard investigators, and with the aid of an anonymous private operative, this menace to Anvil's men has been summarily dealt with, and the wives of Anvil may rest easier, knowing their gullible husbands will no longer be imperiled by predatory seductresses. I don't read the Blackhorse Courier much, but this one definitely interested me. In fact, it had me wanting to make a video going over every single Blackhorse Courier article in the game. If that's something that interests you, then let me know down below. Moving on, if you didn't know, the quest goes a little differently for those who are playing as Type 1 characters in the remake or female ones in the original. Instead of attempts at seducing the player, the gang actually asks you to join their operation. In fact, we get a little more insight into how their scheme works. Faustina will say, "Never seen you here before. You look like you can handle yourself in a fight, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind making a little extra money. I've put together a gang. We make money by luring fools out to the middle of nowhere and robbing them blind. Our targets, weak-willed men who are easily fooled into believing they will have their way with us. Men are so gullible. I leave the decision up to you. If you want to join up, meet us at the Gueden Farmhouse around 11 in the evening. I'll mark it on your map. Oh, and one more thing. If you breathe a word of this to the city guard, you won't live long enough to get whatever reward they're offering." Following this, Faustina makes it clear that the women are not prostitutes, they do everything on their own terms, and the men never actually end up laying a finger on them. So it really does seem that their victims get lured off, robbed blind, and sent back to town for the walk of extra shame. What's more, when you meet up with Cardia at the farm, she goes further into detail. "I see you decided to take us up on our offer. Good, we could use another gal in the gang. Here's how it works. We case the flowing bowl for a likely subject. Namely, we look for a married guy who drinks a lot. Then, we'll send you in there where you charm the man and get him to come out to some location we pick to rob him. When he gets there, we make him take off all his clothes, which is very easy by the way. When they're helpless, that's when we spring the trap. So far, we haven't had to draw one drop of blood. The best part of the whole thing is that the men are so embarrassed they won't tell the guards. So the bottom line is, you show a little skin, just a tease. No one touches you. What do you say?" This statement in particular shed some light on one of the questions I had prior. Wouldn't the men, especially Gueden, have known exactly where the gang resided if they all got led to the same place? As it would turn out, the women keep a rotation of places going, which is smart so no one can come looking for them. Although, showing their faces in the flowing bowl every night defeats the purpose, but I digress. As far as we know, the women have robbed at least 4 victims. Pinnerus, Heinrich, Ernest, and Gueden. The player is technically their 5th attempt. To be honest, I'm not quite sure where they could have led the other men that wasn't Gueden Farm. That seems to be their base of operation. Nothing else that's private is exactly close by, and I doubt they're rolling into caverns, old forts, and alien ruins. Maybe they're renting rooms at Brina Cross Inn and robbing the men there, as well as maybe some of the other inns in Anvil, but that's incredibly risky. There are other interesting facts that come directly from the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. Like for example, there's unused audio files indicating that at some point during the making of the game, it was possible to go further along with the gang's requests and potentially even have that quote-unquote night of fun they initially offered. Faustina's specific lost words are, "This is going to be fun." This was probably a response you would have gotten at the farmhouse when she initially receives you at the door. It's likely referring to the player spending some personal time with Miss Cardia, but whether or not you would have been knocking boots is unknown. My guess is that your character would have stripped down, Faustina takes your items, and the gang then rolls out from the basement, forcing you to leave or die. Another scrapped idea for this quest is that Faustina might have been able to yield and surrender to the player. According to the USP, there are certain dialogue choices that are still in the French and German version of the game, which indicate Faustina once booked it to the basement while her friends died in battle. Gueden and Melona enter the farmhouse, and from there, take the scared Imperial to jail. We actually have some concrete evidence for this, as stage 110 of the quest specifically says that Faustina was taken into custody. This might explain why sometimes Faustina is simply not aggressive during the big battle at Gueden. It's because she has conflicting packages that tell her to stay for the show, but also to turn tail and run. For the last bit of discussion, I wanted to briefly go over some things that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Number one is that the girls specifically say their main targets are married men. The ones who would be overly gullible in following along, as well as the ones who wouldn't tell the guards out of embarrassment. The player's character, assuming they're male/type 2, absolutely does not fit this profile. You're a stranger, you're probably decked out in full armor with some crazy weapons to boot, and the Sirens have no way of telling if you're married or not. Even if a hit to your ego is their main reasoning for targeting you, the fact that the gang frequents the flowing bowl completely ruins their chances at any anonymity. I understand the guards need proof of the crime and witnesses aren't coming forward, but they were bound to get caught eventually, right? Even the town guard, Gueden and Melona, knew that they were going to be back at the flowing bowl. If Gueden went in himself that night, the gang could have been caught right then and there. I'd also say that it only takes one victim to brush away their ego and to set up in the flowing bowl as well. From there, the ladies' plan would have more than likely gone downhill. Overall, the Siren's Deception is a really unique quest to the game. As far as I recall, its concept is one of a kind in Oblivion, and it's interesting to see how the player's sex changes the events of the story. It's also intriguing to read up on what the original vision of the quest was like. The devs were definitely trying to throw in some personal fantasies, but Todd shut it down. Unless there's information that I'm missing, some of the details don't completely correlate with what we were told, and the gang's scheme could have used some work if they didn't want to get caught. In any case, it was really fun. I'd love to know your thoughts on the quest down below, and until next time, keep on adventuring.